Our brother Andy.
We had just got out of school one afternoon in 1914. My older brother Billy and I were in the school paddock, catching our old horse Duffy. As we got ready to ride home, Billy suddenly stopped and listened. "What's that?" he said. "Can you hear it, Tom?" I listened too. "Music," I said. "It's a band."
We had no idea what a band would be doing in our small town, but we were going to find out. We ran down the street, pulling Duffy behind us. We found the band in our little park, which is a patch of green right in the middle of the dusty main street. "It's soldiers," I said in amazement. They were playing very stirring music that made my feet want to march. "But what's that?" said Billy, pointing towards the town hall nearby.
There was a table in front of the town hall. Several soldiers stood beside it. They were wearing smart riding breeches, glittering boots, and soft hats with great bunches of feathers fluttering in them. They looked magnificent. Queued beside the table were young men we knew. "There's Patrick Riley," pointed out Billy, "and Jim Hardy, and Alf Black, and Ned Sorensen, and our Andy," I said. "Andy's there too. What are they doing?"
There was a long pause. "They're joining the army," Billy replied. "Oh, Mum and Dad won't like that. They won't like that at all. We knew that the war had started in Europe. Britain and their allies were fighting Germany. We knew some young Australians were volunteering to fight. We just never thought our brother Andy would do it."
We waited anxiously until Andy had finished talking to the soldiers at the table. We saw him bend over to sign something.
Then Andy came over to us. "I've done it!" he exclaimed. His face was shining. "I've joined the army, and guess what? I can even take my own horse into the army with me. Sonny and I have joined the Light Horse Brigade." When we got home, we found out Billy had been right. Mum and Dad were happy about Andy joining the army and going away to fight others in France or maybe in Egypt or Palestine.
They were both worried about Andy. Dad was also worried about how he would manage to work on the dairy farm without Andy and Sonny, but they don't try to stop Andy.
On the day Andy and his friends rode away, we stood at our gate and waved goodbye. "No tears now," Dad said to Mum. "Send our boy off with a smile." Mum did, but she cried later.
In a few weeks we had a letter from Andy. He had finished his training and soon he would be sent overseas. "You'd be proud of Sonny," he wrote. "She's the best horse in our troop. Everyone says so." A photograph fell out of the envelope. There was Andy in his uniform with a great plume of emu feathers in his hat. He looked so grown up. Suddenly, Mum put out the photo in a frame and set it up on the shelf in the kitchen.
Things had changed on our farm since Andy left, and it wasn't for the better. I had never realised how many different things Andy did. Billy and I had always got up early to help with the milking. Now we had to get up a lot earlier because milking took much longer, without Andy to help us. Billy had to round up the cows. Now that Sonny was gone, he had to ride old Duffy instead, so that took a lot longer too.
I had to look after the chooks, and I hated that. One rooster was really grumpy. He would chase me and peck me if I didn't look out. He hadn't done that to Andy. Andy knew how to deal with him, but he did it with me. Then one morning I got so angry when our rooster sneaked up and pecked my legs from behind. I swung him around and grabbed his tail feathers and pulled suddenly. I had a handful of long feathers. They that gave me an idea. I stuck them into the band of my hat. I thought maybe I'd look a bit like Andy with his magnificent emu feathers. Well, I didn't, not much, but the other boys at school admired them. It became the fashion to have feathers in your hat. They could be rooster feathers like mine or big parrot feathers. One day Stan Burke arrived at school with a great bunch of emu feathers in his hat, just like the light horse feathers. "Where did you get those?" I asked. We were all envious. "We found a dead emu beside the creek at our place," Stan said. He tossed his head so the feathers fluttered. "Can we get some too?" I asked him. "Sure," said Stan. "I'll show you." After school we all went to Stan's place to find the dead emu. It was very dead by then, and it smelled. I had a nose, rushed up and grabbed a handful of feathers and took them proudly home. Mum made me wash them before she would let me bring them inside, but afterwards she carefully sewed them onto my hat. I looked like a real light horseman, just like Andy. It wasn't just because I had to do a lot of extra work that I missed Andy. I just missed him. Andy always had a joke, a laugh, a smile to make the day better. There weren't so many smiles around the farm now. One day at school, our teacher, Mr. Amos, read a poem to us. It was by Mr. Henry Lawson, and it was called Andy's Gone Battle. I sat comfortably in my seat, ready to listen. I like poetry, but soon I was sitting up straight and listening very carefully indeed, because it seemed as if the poem was all about our Andy. It started. "Our Andy's gone with cattle now, our hearts are out of order." That was exactly how we felt, I thought. Our hearts were certainly out of order. I wasn't exactly the same situation, of course. Andy in the poem had gone droving cattle, and our Andy had gone to war, but it felt the same to me.
I don't know what that said before. Yes. Mr. Amos, we're gone.
He's left us in dejection. Now our thoughts with him are roving. It's dull on this selection. Now since Andy went a droving.
That was exactly it. It was dull without Andy.
The poem went on for several more verses. Then it ended. "The May God angels send the rain on desert searches sandy, and when the summer comes again, God grant 'twill bring us Andy." The classroom was absolutely silent. So many of my classmates had brothers, cousins, fathers away at the war. Perhaps they were feeling the same way I was, hoping that Andy or Patrick or Jim or Elf or Ned would come home to them.
When school was over, I waited in the classroom for a little while, after the other children had left. "Did you want something, Tom?" asked Mr. Amos. Yes, sir," I said. "Do you think I could borrow your book?" "My poetry book?" asked Mr. Amos. "Yes, sir. I'd like to read the poem about Andy." Mr. Amos smiled. Your brother is Andy, isn't he?" "Of course you can, Tom." "Thank you, sir," I said. "I hope your mother likes the poem," replied Mr. Amos. "Mum don't just like the poem, she loved it. We read it again and again. In the end, we all knew it off by heart."
Another letter came from Andy. He and Sonny had sailed on a ship to Egypt. "We're doing a lot of desert training," Andy wrote. "Sonny has taken to charging up and down sand dunes very well. I'm sending you a photograph of me and my mates at the pyramids." And there they were, Patrick, Jim, Alf, Ned and Andy, in front of one of the huge pyramids of Egypt. They were all riding on camels. It looked very exciting. "There's Andy, off having adventures," Billy grumbled afterwards. and I'm stuck here herding and milking cows. Billy was 14 now. Mum and Dad knew that some boys put their ages up in order to join the army. Billy didn't like farm work much, and he was tall and strong for his age. Mum and Dad kept a very close eye on Billy.
We read in the newspapers that Australian and New Zealand soldiers had been sent from Egypt to a place in Turkey, and that the Allies were fighting the Turks there. Andy and his mates went. They had to leave their horses in Egypt and fight at Gallipoli without them.
At the end of 1915, the campaign was over. It had gone well, and the Allied soldiers had to be pulled out of Gallipoli. Andy travelled safely back to Egypt, where Sonny was waiting for him, but some of his mates didn't. They were left at Gallipoli forever.
Andy didn't know where he and Sonny would be going next. It might be Palestine, he wrote.
Dad frowned. How much longer can this go on? He exploded. We want our boys back.
We do, I thought, and part of the poem floated through my head. And when the summer comes again, God grant 'twill bring us Andy